Hello, beautiful human. I am Zach. That is Dan, and we welcome to the studio. First time in a long time, Laura Marano.
Hey. Oh my God, wait, I realized I should put my headphones on.
You don't need to. You really can do whatever you want. I mean, we do have a debut.
I want to hear how nice you are.
I do. I sound amazing through the headphones. We do have a debut album to discuss. You can listen to the whole thing. I may be an actress, but I can't fake how I feel. It's all waiting for you on Amazon Music. Just click the link in the description below. We've talked on this show before.
It's been years.
About this this thing of like pretending to be somebody else as an actress, but then being 100% yourself in music and being 100% vulnerable and honest and really tapping into something that is totally. It is different making music, right?
100%, yeah.
In so many different ways. Can you just like can you just describe what it's like to really create something from nothing that is 100% you compared to bringing to life somebody else's vision or your own vision, but built around a character that is
not you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so funny because that was always something that I always was so drawn to with music. I mean, since I was a little girl, like I love the idea that it's just me. And you have to understand, for me, I've been acting since I'm 5. So that's a lot of, having fun and playing pretend, which I also love. I love having an imagination. I've said before, and I really believe acting helps teach you empathy because you're walking, into another person, another character's shoes. But music is scary and personal and beautiful because it's all you. And I think it's funny. Acting has always been such a part of my life on a professional level, and music has always been such a part of my life on a personal level. And being able to do music on a professional level as well, it's like this overwhelming and scary thing to do because you're bringing that personal into the forefront. So with this album, it was funny because it was a lot of processing feelings that I think I had kind of buried for a very long time.
Yeah, because you're focused on being other people.
Yeah, and I think also like for acting, it's always you are not just playing a part, but you are morphing yourself to fit the vision of someone, in someone else's head. You think of yourself as kind of like you have to almost separate yourself from the physical, from who you are.
A part of you is like clay, essentially.
100%. And also you have to kind of like let go the idea of not being able to handle rejection, right? Because I get told on a regular basis on an acting level, like, no, you're not good enough. No.
Do you remember the last time it was hard to hear no, or is it still hard to hear you're not good enough?
Well, I think it's different with music, right? So music, again, is so personal. So I think it's still hard to hear that a little bit. For acting, I don't know. There's such a maybe a numbness there, which maybe isn't healthy.
How many hundreds of auditions in?
Oh, I mean, literally, we're probably, for how long I've been doing it, like in the thousands of like, no, you're not the one. You're not good enough. You're not who we want. I mean, I was replaced on 2 shows within 6 months of each other when I was like 11.
That's the
because
worst.
I was too old.
Really?
Yeah.
And by the way, like probably no fault of your own. It just took that long for the show to even get picked up. Probably from
no, actually, even more embarrassing. The show, like I was on the show. Like people saw me on the show, like for multiple episodes, and then the next episode it was a younger girl.
What?
Yes. And then the second time it happened 6 months later. I was on it, and it was actually I was hoping for that because I did the pilot, and usually like they replace, and you're like, okay, because it's less embarrassing when you're like people didn't know that you were in it. Still, with that show, I was in the pilot episode, and then the next week there was a blonde girl who was playing my part. Yeah, it was like bizarre.
But that still hurts. Like,
oh, of course.
I've done 2 pilots, and then they ended up going forward with the show in one case, and like went with other people instead of me. And then, another case, they just didn't go with it. But it's still, like, that is...
Oh, totally. But there's another level of embarrassment when people saw that you were in it. I'd have people in school coming up to me, or even I would have, like... I would have, which I like to think positively, and I think when it's a weird business, especially when you're a young girl and you're, like, an early teen, but I had, like, some girls in audition rooms be like... I can't believe you're not on that show anymore. And I really do think in my heart of hearts that they didn't mean to be like rub in my face, but it was weird. It was like right before I went in for like another audition.
What show was it?
A show called Back to You on Fox, and then a show called Gary Unmarried on CBS.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, that's wild.
It was.
Is there an audition that you've gotten pretty far in the process, like a role that you've actually genuinely wanted, that you were bummed that it didn't end up going your way?
I mean, I still think it's funny with acting. I can still get disappointed and really want something and still be able to separate when I'm told no. So yeah, there's definitely been a few. I'm trying to think of the last one that like came out, because then all of them also don't necessarily like come to fruition or come out.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm happy that I'm not jaded enough in the process where I kind of like I don't care. I don't want to do this. I really genuinely only go out for things or tape for things that I really like love and am excited about the part, or I haven't done that part before, or I haven't done that kind of project before.
It must be weird to go from being on a show like Austin and Ally, and you have so much security, and to a certain degree, you're not allowed to audition. Like you go from auditioning for forever to not auditioning at all.
Well,
and then being thrown back into it.
Yeah. Not only that, I wasn't allowed not just to audition. I mean, you were allowed to audition, but then you had to clear any part that you got. And there were 2 different parts that I got that just didn't get cleared. And one of them was a guest star on an ABC show, which I thought for sure was going to get cleared because it was in the family. But it was like the character was a little too dark, and they're like, you can't play that dark character. And I was like, no, even though other actors had done that in the past. So that was always a little confusing. If you kind of look for, okay, you have the same rule for everybody, but that wasn't always the case. So it was strange. Yeah.
I mean, a decision made by a couple mid-level executives who just wanted to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what they were worried about, like parents being like, oh, she was this character on this ABC show, so we can't see her in any other way. By
the way, like you can rationalize, or they can attempt to rationalize their decision, or it could have just been based on personal preference. That's the thing with a lot of those decisions. Like you really don't know, and not everybody's ever pushed to like back up decisions. Accountability doesn't always show its face all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, well, it is subjective, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's hard to quantify exactly like decisions of what effects they led to a little bit. You know, if their decision was based on, we don't want an audience to see you a certain way, how do you even quantify that? Like, so it's hard. You just have to kind of accept it and keep going.
That's it. But that sucks at the same time, because also in that moment, you want to be challenged. You want to take on something new.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that one I was annoyed about, but the second one that I wasn't allowed to do, I was like devastated, because I was going to be working with like 2 of my like actual female comedic heroes. And that one, I remember like just sobbing. I was like so upset.
Wait, that's hard, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like during the last season, or like right before the last season started. So it was also kind of like, I really, really want this, because I feel like this is that next step for me. And, it wasn't able to happen.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
It's so funny, because I haven't even thought about that in such a long time that I'm like, now I look back and I'm kind of like, what happens, happens.
It is really fascinating, because then after that you have to go and like, if you choose to, then you have to audition for a bunch of shit.
Yeah, which I don't mind. I actually don't mind. I think after the show, I obviously got a little bit pickier, and I definitely wanted to not do a TV show for a hot minute, because I just came off doing a TV show. So I was definitely way more interested in doing film. But I don't mind. I think I understand that some people, after you have this like success and you have such a platform given to you, I think you also get like advice from like every person and their mother about what you should do and what your strategy should be and blah, blah, blah. And for that first year after the show, I was fully focused on music. I had signed a record label, so I wasn't even like thinking about acting. But I feel like one of the worst advice you can get is like, don't audition anymore. Like, I think that's not, in my opinion, the best choice. I think being pickier is great and definitely not necessarily taping for every single thing. But I think the advice of like only allow or get offers isn't the best strategy, in my opinion.
But a lot of people take that rule. And
Yeah.
they see where